Let's bring in Liberal Senator for South Australia, Alex Antic. Now, Alex, good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, Chris.
Yeah, look, you've been a leading critic of vaccine mandates and all sorts of pandemic overreach. And your state, under a Liberal government, was pretty strong. It was up there in the Mark McGowan category at times. But under Labor now, Peter Malinauskas has actually got rid of the emergency powers. Do you welcome that? He's the first state to actually get rid of the emergency powers.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. And look, that is in the short term a relief. I think it's a bit like a pressure gauge coming off. Many of the mandates still stand, of course, on the healthcare workers and aged care. But what this has done is take away the emergency declaration, which was really, as you and I think both have spoken about, in for too long, far too long, that emergency declaration. But what it has done is it's bricked in longer-term powers into the South Australian Public Health Act, which I find troubling. I haven't been shy about saying that as well. Really, this is almost an on-off switch now, subject to the declaration of a new emergency down the track. And I don't think there are too many of us that think that that opportunity won't arise. We've seen in recent times at least the shooting down of the international health regulations recently, which was a relief, but the possibility of a global health pandemic treaty coming up. So, look, I remain concerned about this. In many ways, what's lying in wait in the Public Health Act is even more draconian, potentially at worst. But in the short term, it's sensible to remove the emergency declaration.
Let's just have a look at what some of the South Australian Premier Labor's Peter Malinauskas said last month.
South Australians can know that government won't be introducing new restrictions or new impositions without another emergency management declaration. So from here on in, we're committed to reducing restrictions rather than imposing additional ones, which will allow business to have confidence to grow, to continue to employ people.
So Alex, putting aside your reservations about the Permanent Act, and that's something we've got to watch in all the states, the point is if South Australia can get rid of these emergency declarations now, surely all the other states should be doing the same immediately. What is their excuse for still having emergencies declared across their states?
You're absolutely right. They absolutely should. And as to the declaration, well, I think it's good for business. I think, frankly, that politics and politicians have, in many respects, enjoyed the power trip. Bureaucrats certainly have. We've seen that. Many of them have disappeared from our screens, which I'm sure they don't like. So there is this issue. We talked about this very early on in the COVID experience, that bureaucrats and politicians, they love to give these powers away. They don't like to give them back, though. And I think that's what we're seeing around the country. And look, they really do need to be withdrawn as soon as possible. My preference is that we never see a return of what we saw. I think we saw some very, very uncomfortable times, which is why I was happy to speak out about it. I don't want to see them return.